Looking ahead to Wednesday when Liverpool play Aston Villa, where hopefully Salah starts and hopefully Salah scores, you know, I'd reckon Liverpool should be seen as clear favourites for the match, considering although we have a few injuries with Cody Gakpo being ruled out and with Joe Gomez being ruled out, Aston Villa have lots of injuries themselves, and they were forced to play Kamara, their midfielder, in the back line, but then he went off injured. They don't have any. Anana's going to miss the game. Konza's going to miss the game, and they've just recently drawn with 10-man Ipswich. I know Slot talked about Rashford and how much he admires him, but Liverpool surely have to be seen as clear favourites to win on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it's looking a little bit less tough of a fixture than it maybe would have 2 or 3 months ago. As you say, their injuries and the form. I mean, they're without a win in 4 games now in the Premier League, and that last one against Ipswich extremely disappointing. But alongside that, you've got to say that it's never straightforward going to Villa Park, particularly under the lights. They generate a great atmosphere there. I love going to that ground. I think it's one of the best in English football, to be honest. And it really is. It can be on it in these big games as well. So, Liverpool have got to be very, very careful. But I don't predict that Liverpool's poor performances that we've seen in the last 2 or patchy performances will continue, and they have to come to an end at some point. I think a game like this, where you have to be on it, you're in a tough place to go. I think it's a really good opportunity for them to put a marker down. And I mean, in terms of what's on offer as well, a 10-point lead at the top of the Premier League, that is huge. What that could do to Arsenal and their mentality. So. Would love to see a good Liverpool performance. There's every reason to believe it will come as well because of the issues that Villa have got in their form. But of course, you've got to go there and do it. So let's see how they get on.
So I thought Liverpool's midfield looked a bit leggy against Wolves, and obviously Jones is now able to return because he served his suspension with the red card. Is there any chance you think that he might come straight into the starting 11 just to freshen things up? Because I know McAllister and Gravenberch have played well, but they do look tired. And then similar questions up front, because obviously now that Gakpo's out, you'd expect Diaz to start on the left wing. Is there any debate in your mind about whether Jota should start, whether Nunez should start? Obviously, Nunez scored last time against Aston Villa at Anfield, but what are you thinking on those 2 positions?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think in midfield, I mean, the problem the manager's got here is he's so big, isn't he, on the Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch 3, and you're thinking Villa away, tough one on paper. You'd love to put what is your best midfield out, but I agree. There is that element of they've asked a lot of these players over the last couple of games. I think we were too eager sometimes to assign things to legginess, but I also think it was kind of evident in that second half. I agree with you. Sometimes when it's just a poor performance, we say, the players look tired. And I think this is a very Liverpool thing to do because of the obsession with what happened last season when the team kind of fell off a little bit. But I do agree that in that last couple, there's been a bit of legginess. So I think in the central area, it would be nice to, you've got Curtis Jones back. He's fresh. He's ready to bring him in. But the big question there is, do you lose Szoboszlai's incredible engine by taking him out? Can you afford to lose McAllister, who I think is Liverpool's most important midfielder? And I think the manager would say that. Or do you mix things up in that holding role and take Gravenberch out, who's been so key? That's the tough decision there is who does Curtis Jones come in for? But I wouldn't be against seeing him in the starting lineup at all. I'll say that much, but I'll leave it to the manager to decide who he comes in for. And in that central area, again, you would have looked at this and maybe thought this is one that really suits Darwin Núñez. And yet I looked at his performance off the bench at the weekend and was, maybe he's kind of played himself out of it a little bit there. I thought he was quite poor when he came on, to be honest. He's shown some improvements in his form of late, but it was really disappointing what he produced when he came on against Wolves. Didn't even seem to be pressing with his usual intensity. I mean, I wonder, was he a little bit disappointed he didn't start when it looked like that would have been a good opportunity for him to do so? Was there a bit of sulking going on there? You never really know. Or was it just Liverpool were under the cosh and it wasn't really his fault? It's hard to kind of pick those things out. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Jota start again, to be honest. I mean, I didn't think his performance was perfect. I don't think anybody's performance in centre forward for Liverpool this season have been close to perfect, to be honest. But I just think with Diaz obviously clearly being on that left-hand side, the way that the manager spoke about Jota in his pre-match press conference today and the role he played in the first goal against Wolves, I just think that might be enough to squeeze him into the starting 11 again. But it's and I think that's maybe tough on Nunes, but maybe there are some starts coming up for him because you're going to need everyone in this run. It's what is it, 5 games in 15 days? It's absolutely relentless. So if Nunes doesn't start this one, I still think there's chances coming up for him.
Yeah, this run is absolutely vital to the title, and like you said, Nunes will be needed, whether that's off the bench or whether he's given starts later on. So do you think that there's, because you mentioned there about how the centre forward has tended to struggle in terms of goals, regardless of who's played, do you think that might be an issue moving forward in terms of how do you get more, especially now that Gakpo's out? Do you think against Aston Villa maybe we might be a bit more stifled in the final third without that consistent? Because Gakpo's been the only other forward who's been consistently involved in the final third. Do you think that could maybe be an issue?
I wonder with the centre forward thing, I just wonder whether that is a feature. And it's spoken a lot about we want to get more out of our centre forward, but it's happened that frequently now over such a long period of the season that I'm utterly convinced actually that this is by design, and that kind of Roberto Firmino setup where he doesn't want his centre forward to get shots. He wants all the shots to go to the wingers, primarily Mohamed Salah, if you can control it, because that it's just happened too often for that to be, to just be coincidental or whatever. So I think this is how he's setting the team up. So obviously worry then is that, Cody Gakpo there to finish off the chances on that left-hand side. So it puts even more pressure on Mohamed Salah. But then all of a sudden you restore Luis Diaz to that left-hand side against Wolves. He gets a goal and wins a penalty. It just, again, it says to me that it's systemic and it's the way that this team is designed. And so if that is the case, maybe Diaz can get more closer to the early season form he showed on that left-hand side, and that because he's not in that black hole that is being the Liverpool centre forward at the moment. So not too concerned about that yet. And the biggest thing for me really is that it maybe informs what Liverpool are going to do in that area going into the transfer market in the summer. But of course that is a long way away yet, and they've got to kind of keep winning games. And but yeah, I don't get the impression that Arne Slot is desperately trying to fix it so that his centre forwards get more shots, because it's been going on for months and months now.